Okay, we'll make a start, and good morning and welcome to this meeting of the West of England Joint Committee. May I remind you that this meeting is, as usual, being live streamed. Unfortunately, the Chair, Councillor Mike Bell, is unable to attend today's meeting, so as Vice Chair, I will be running the meeting today. My name is Councillor Ian Bolton, and I'd like to introduce my colleagues. First of all, Tony, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. My name's Tony Dye. I'm the leader of Bristol City Council.
Kevin?
Good morning, everyone. Councillor Kevin Guy, leader of Bath and North East Somerset Council.
Hannah, would you like to just introduce yourself? Welcome.
Yes, thank you. My name is Hannah Young, Councillor Hannah Young. I'm here on behalf of Councillor Mike Bell, North Somerset Council.
Thank you. And we've also got Richard. Richard, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Richard Bonner. I'm the chair of the West of England Local Enterprise Partnership, the partnership between business and the authorities and the Combined Authority.
Thank you, Richard. So we've received apologies from Mike from North Somerset and also from Councillor Jerome Thomas as chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So we move on to item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any interest to declare, please?
Just
Richard.
to say my register of interests are up to date. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Okay, item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 31st of January. Those on pages 5 to 8. The minutes of the previous meeting held on the 31st of January have been circulated with the meeting papers. Are members happy, please, for these minutes to be confirmed as a correct record of the meeting? And could I have a proposer and seconder, if so, please?
Happy to propose the minutes as approved.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All in favour? Thank you. So next we have Chair's announcements. I have no announcements to make. So we move on to items from the public. We have had 2 questions that were received from members of the public for this meeting. They have been published with responses on the website alongside the agenda papers. Statements, we have received 5 statements from members of the public. Up to 3 minutes per statement is allowed. I'd be grateful if those who are here today to read their statements could please summarise the points they wish to make, as we have read the statements, which are also published on the website. So I'll be calling the speakers in turn, and I'd like to call, first of all, Dave.
Thank you, David Mitchell. So I'm the pasture representative on the West of England Mirror Combined Authority and North Somerset Bus Service Advisory Panel, as well as being representative of lots of other user groups. So first of all, I want to make it clear we're very pleased with the Chief Executive's decision to reallocate to Thames Valley Transport the Westlink contract. The previous contract was a failure contract. It was AZEC Medical, and we kept reporting this to Councillor Young and to the Mayor. And thank you very much for taking the decision to pull the plug on them, and hope the new contractor will be monitored from the 3rd of April when they take over and we get a much better service for passengers. So thank you. The second issue I wanted to raise was the railways bill. This is a £35 million operation by this authority. It's one of its most successful, really, is railways. And you hold First Group to account and has the contract. But we've got the devolution white paper on railways. Can I just make sure that WECA, North Somerset and the constituent authorities as well respond to the government's consultation and protect our contracting of the rail services locally, but also do things about fares, integration, and also the service level, because for these services we've got to Gloucester, Worcester, Salisbury, Weston, Severn Beach, Portishead in future, and the Henbury Loop. We need to retain those and controlled by the Mayor and the Mayoral Authority with Western Gateway. And I'm very pleased, but want to see progress on the North Somerset application after the election. And also quite surprised, but Gloucestershire, their cabinet meeting next Thursday, is also seeing its preferred option is to come join the West of England Combined Authority in public, in the papers. I just want to make sure that South Gloucestershire and Bristol, particularly, are working together on the buses on the East Fringe. I met with First Group last week, and we just need to make sure, Tony, that these buses that cross the boundaries, that twist between Kingswood, Hillside,
Hillfield.
Hillfield, that's what I meant. Yeah, Hillfield, Staple Hill, Stoke Park, Downend, and all through there, French and Stapleton. We actually have a discussion about 19 and 17 buses to make sure they're integrated. And we also speak to Gloucestershire about the route between Stroud and Bristol and look at what we're doing to Chipping Salisbury. Okay, so those are the important issues. On the Portishead Railway, just need to keep the pressure up, but I'm pretty certain that is not going to be unwound. I'm 99% certain, meeting the department, that's going to be unwound. But also we need to get on and build these stations and get on with the planning at Henbury. So those are my points, very much welcomed. And again, thank you very much. And we just need to make progress in September on the bus network with North Somerset and the A4 Unitarists. Thank you. Gloucestershire.
Thank you very much, as ever, Dave. Okay, now I have Barbara. Barbara Lawrence is... sorry, no, I don't. Barbara's not here. Apologies. Stuart Phelps. Stuart Phelps.
I've given you a statement, so I'm not going to read through that. It's fairly detailed, and I'm sure you can make your way in through it. I'd just like to say something about the background. I'm sitting here with cold, hard anger. Bristol City Council has for the third time divided East Bristol along race and class lines, one of our city's most deprived communities. This isn't just frustrating, it's destructive. We've been left to pick up the pieces yet again, and this time we have extremists wandering around trying to pick up the disaffected. The council talks about the difficulty of change. Well, I've spent my career delivering it, and change happens when you're trusted and you're giving people something they need. You've only got to look at the welfare state. Or large-scale voluntary transfers. Bath achieved a transfer with 71% of tenants saying they wanted to do it. Or more recently, we've had the sudden rise of e-scooters. Nobody's had to advertise those. They've literally just been picked up and run with. And to be honest, there are more illegal ones on the road than legal ones. We are asking you to review the misuse of funds on the Livable Neighbourhood Scheme. It won't reduce air pollution. It's increasing congestion and worsening air pollution for the poorest on the boundary roads. It won't reduce congestion. A 19th century cycling solution isn't viable for families carrying children, shopping or tools. Do you know how many parents from Barton Hill drive miles to get their children to a better school and then have to rush to jobs where they have to be there on time? I'll give you an example. I have a neighbour who is a mother of 3. She works shifts at Amazon Sevenside. And if she was to travel by public transport, it would take her 7 hours, 3 hours there, 4 hours back, on top of an evening shift. I defy anyone to do that on a bicycle and stand on a shop floor in a warehouse for a night shift. The scheme ignores the reality. People in Barton Hill are poor. They don't drive for pleasure. They drive out of necessity. They can't afford leisure. The irony? The only community in Bristol which has stopped 2 fossil fuel power stations are the people who live in the tower blocks on Barton Hill and the workers on St Philip's Marsh. They then went on to fight for battery storage. Their actions have done more for Bristol's air quality than anything else. But they're being forced to live with a low traffic neighbourhood. And sadly, nobody seems to recognise that the person who understands climate change best is the family that's arrived having fled disaster, war, famine, not a graduate. The scheme's a disaster. It's fractured our community. And as a black air quality campaigner in South London has said, low traffic neighbourhoods are just ethnic cleansing and gentrification on steroids. You've only got to look at the population shifts and house price rises in Waltham Forest, which is so often quoted as being the best example. Please review the scheme. Help us save our community.
Thank you very much for your contribution, Stuart. I'd like to now move to Caroline Dunn, if Caroline is here. Caroline.
With many thanks for your time, because my heart condition means I get breathless and it's very difficult to speak fast enough.
Take it as easy as you need, Caroline.
Thank you. Councillor Bolton and esteemed colleagues, I want to speak to you about unintended consequences of good intentions. I did have a speech, but events in East Bristol supersede. I have no particular party politics. I went over to see the area for myself yesterday, and I have information I hope the committee will find useful. I am extremely concerned about the possibilities of a Bristol Grenfell of some type, and I'm also extremely concerned about the position of disabled residents, especially those who can't walk at all. But just as an aside here, I would like to make the point that disabled people desperately need supermarket deliveries. When they have severe mobility issues, these are absolutely essential, and deliveries are essential, and I don't feel the position of deliveries has been taken into consideration enough here. Right, I can see what they're trying to do, and some of it is an okay idea, but very badly implemented. I stopped 4 times. I stopped 4 times consulting my map, and I got out once. And I talked to about 8 or so people. They all seemed to go around in 2s and 3s. At each stop, I spoke to people, and I then went and spoke to some in a cafe. There is a lot of anger from other drivers in the area if you stop, wherever you stop. All the people I spoke to, bar one, are absolutely against the project. None of these were noticeably disabled people, by the way. One said he liked the cleaner air, but they hadn't thought it through properly at all from the beginning, and it was badly implemented. That's not a direct quote, but it's almost a direct quote. Somewhere else, another young man in his early 30s said they weren't listening to any of them, not any of the residents, and what could they all do? Nothing. Now, if a young man in his 30s is feeling powerless, we're going desperately wrong somewhere. Everyone was in complete shock that the police et al. Had walked into the area the night before in a Putanesque-style land grab at 3 a.m. I'm sorry about this, it's just, the heart makes me shake. It seems to me that if you have to do that, you've clearly already lost the argument. And I can't put it better than that. I feel partial implementation of the ideas would have been good if they'd left Victoria Free Avenue free to go along in entirely one direction or the other way, as it's totally confusing and a mismatch. I must speak to you about fire regulations. I think we've got disaster on our hands coming up. I could still get to the Barton Hill settlement, which I use. But there are plans to prevent especially disabled people doing that, which must be cancelled on the basis of Article 149 alone on equality of opportunity. I had problems getting to the cafe with frequent road constrictions along Avonvale Road, with included parking. I'm concerned about a fire engine getting along there at all. It would, if it could, be incredibly slow. A lady in the cafe who lived in a high-rise said they were now taking a much, much longer time getting to a building than before to turn off false fire alarms. I could only get to the cafe because I went through a bus gate which is so far non-operational it cuts this road in two and must not, in my opinion, ever be implemented. There are 2 others i.e. in both directions, I feel are over the top and very questionable. If there were a serious fire in a terraced house here, I am sure that the whole area would go up like a tinderbox. If there were a gas explosion, and these things do occur, I think there would be enormous difficulties for the police to carry out an effective, never mind fast, possible evacuation. And my concern is that disabled people who couldn't walk far or at all would be left to burn. I call on the basis of a non-resident with some common sense and a lot of life experience for this project to be halted forthwith to enable our fire service, who are bloody good and intelligent about fires, to enable our fire service to carry out a full and thorough investigation based on at least 6 random undeclared visits at different times of day and report back on obvious safety issues with recommendations. Also, to give time for Avon and Somerset Police to create an evacuation plan for all the disabled people and report back on feasibility and so on. I am sure that overall this project is in contravention of Article 149, but I am also sure that it could be worked on if it was actually looked at properly, with proper considerations and the involvement of disabled people from the very beginning, to be reworked in some way that would make it far, far safer. Please will the people in power with authority take a step back and give another long, hard look at exactly what is needed, exactly what can be done, exactly what could achieve the goal. For I think there are far too many alterations and over the top to achieve the goal, which is worthy of reducing air pollution and so on, before we have a really life-destroying disaster.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you
And
for your...
I do thank everybody for their forbearance with the length, but I feel when we're discussing the possibility of a major disaster, and we still haven't talked about terrorist attacks and where Bristol is on the agenda of various wild groups.
Thank you, Caroline.
You
Jill,
know,
behind you if you'd like to have a glass of water, and thank you very much for your contribution.
I just would like to say
We'll-
we need to seriously reconsider, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Caroline. We now move on to Rosa Kell, if Rosa is... oh, no, Helen. Helen Hughes. Helen.
So I'm also here to talk about the subject of the East Bristol livable neighbourhood, which events of this week, which were absolutely shocking. I don't live in the area, as you know, Ian. Am I at a good...
Yep, we can hear you.
because I'm whistling a bit. So basically my statement is about the fact that the funding has been agreed for this project from WECA and drawn down. That was clear from the Decision Pathway report of April 2023. This funding has resulted in what happened this week on the streets of East Bristol. There are 3 people who live in the area next to me sitting here who have been affected by this and have been affected by it for a long time, with the stress and the emotional difficulty of dealing with this situation, which has resulted in this week in Bristol City Council, Ed Plowden, chairman of the Transport and Connectivity Committee, sending in a huge amount of police, security guards, and the contractors to put in. This wasn't like a terrorist attack or trying to catch a serious criminal or something. They came in the middle of the night to put in planters in roads and bollards, just suffering immensely from the fallout of this. It feels like the council, Bristol City Council, is at war against them, literally, at the moment, with coming in with a mission in the middle of the night like that. Despite the fact that they have been trying to say for over a year now, way over a year, how much they do not want this scheme. And they've heard again and again, just be quiet, it'll be fine, you'll get used to it. And, oh, there's lots of people that are pro this scheme, when it is obvious from the number of people on the Facebook group that has been created by Melissa Topping here, over 3,000 people in that group, a petition of over 5,000 was signed, which resulted in a debate in the City Council building last December, which was basically a formulaic, let's prepare a speech and give a little kind of show debate about it. Yeah, all this is just, what is it for? What does the council want to do to the people of East Bristol? They don't comprehend it. You've heard now from Caroline and from Stuart about it too. Very good statements. Yeah, so I would like to, just to say, I don't think you should even rethink it. I think you should just scrap the whole thing and maybe go back. And if you really want to improve an area, listen to the people who live there, listen to what they're saying, and take that into account. Don't just put on blanket globalist plans to make people get out of their cars. It's not the way to do it.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
And good to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you very much to everyone who's submitted a statement. All the comments have been noted, and where they do relate to agenda items will be taken into account by the committee today. So the next item is 6 comments from the chair of the Local Enterprise Partnership Board. So please can I ask Richard Bonner as chair to present his comments on behalf of the board.
Thank you.
Richard.
Just a couple of points to raise today. But first of all, I'd like to thank everybody around the table for continuing to work together to secure what appears to be the government support now for the opening of or reopening of the Portishead line. It's such a critical piece of our infrastructure in the region for not only connecting people to jobs, but to hopefully secure long-term ambitions for securing the housing that's needed for the region. So thank you to all for your continued efforts. Just very briefly, the budget forecast and change requests. I think it's important to note that we continue to optimise the funds, so the reallocation of funds to projects within the Economic Development Fund and the work on the Net Zero Hub continues to be really vital. And in discussions with government for the Future Core and Community Energy Funds, which will provide ongoing funding into 25-26. And so thank you, and we note the development there. In terms of the Warm Homes and the Social Housing Fund, we're very pleased to see that this bid to invest in social homes in the region and the wider southwest, and we continue to see the update to this committee that £67 million of grant funding has been confirmed by government since the paper was published, which means that there will be a minimum project value of £133 million. That is a very significant impact in terms of dealing with improvements to housing stock and to reduce the energy associated with those and to improve the overall well-being. By improving energy efficiency, we make homes warmer and healthier, reduce tenants' bills and reduce carbon emissions. A 3-year pipeline of work at this scale will also deliver significant economic benefit for the region and is a very positive step towards supporting our ambitions for net zero, both in terms of investment, but the speed and scale in which that will happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on then to item 7. Yes, sorry. Yes, please.
Sorry, if I could just make a comment. I think it would be remiss of me not to echo Richard's enthusiasm about the Metro West, the Portishead allocation, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to say a massive thank you to everyone around this table and elsewhere who made that happen. It's such an enormous delight to the people of Portishead, Pill, and I hope the people of Bristol too. So just wanted to take the opportunity to say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very fair comment. Thank you. Okay, we move on then to item 7, comments from the Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Thomas's comments have been published on the Combined Authorities website. And then we move on then to item 8, the comments from the Chair of the Audit Committee. And again, we don't have Councillor Wilcox here, and the items will be on the website on there. We move on then to item 9, the budget forecasts and change requests, which are on pages 9 to 24. This item is to consider the revenue and capital forecasts of the West of England Joint Committee budgets for the financial year 2024 to 25, based on the data from the period April 24 to January 25. Change requests approvals are also included as part of this reporting process. There is positive news from the Net Zero Hub with ongoing discussions around Memorandum of Understanding agreements, which will hopefully provide additional funding of £3 million to support core and community energy projects. And the report seeks approval to repurpose funding through the Economic Development Fund to support the delivery of a number of key schemes, including Metro West Phase 1 and the Avonmouth Sevenside Ecology Mitigation and Flood Defence Project, and to provide match funding for the City Regional Sustainable Transport Settlement Programme. Therefore, I move the report recommendations. Could I call on a seconder, please? Thank you. Would you like to speak on this? Okay. In that case, anyone else wish to speak on this at all? In that case, there are 6 recommendations in the report, and we'll take the votes individually. So, recommendation 1 is... Okay, if we're all agreed, then that's absolutely fine. So I'm moving that en bloc, and you're seconding that en bloc. Show of hands then, please. Thank you very much. Then that is very quickly and efficiently dealt with, so thank you very much. We move on then to item 10, Warm Homes Social Housing Fund Wave 3, and this is on pages 24 to 34. 25 to 34. This item seeks approval for the Southwest Net Zero Hub to receive the Social Housing Funding Fund Wave 3 grant to implement the grant disbursement process. With approval, delegations in compliance with established frameworks, and the Zero Hub bid to the Social Housing Fund was successful, which means that more than £66 million of government grant will be awarded across the South West to help tenants cut their bills and carbon emissions. The grant award is matched by a minimum of 50% funding from social housing providers and local authorities, which means a minimum project size of more than £130 million to be delivered over the next 3 years. Therefore, I move the report recommendations. Can I call again for a seconder, please? Tony, thank you. Would you like to speak now on this?
I think only just to add as well, as this Warm Homes funding, there was also another local grant of 13.4 million, which Bristol has got in cooperation with North Somerset and Baines, which will also allow us to bring social homes up to other types of homes up to better heating standards as well.
Thank you very much, Tony. Anyone else wish to speak on that? No? Okay. Oh, sorry, Kevin.
Sorry, Ian. Yeah, very, very quickly, just to echo Tony's point. This is actually something really successful that's come out of government, and I think it's important that we, as organisations and political parties, we often criticise the government when they do things wrong. But I think it's important to point out something that is a good success, and it's supported by the three authorities, it's supported by WECA, so it's a really good example of collaborative work. And the most important thing we keep talking about all the time is the climate emergency, and this is a really important piece of work of helping some of the most vulnerable people in society insulate their homes and bring down a very expensive cost of living bills. So yeah, it's an amazing piece of work, and people should recognise that.
Thank you very much. Hannah, did you want to say anything on this?
Just echo those comments. I think we're all in agreement. It's absolutely necessary. It's great for the environment, but it also cuts people's bills, and what could be wrong with that? So absolutely.
Thank you very much for your comments there. So there are two recommendations of the report. Would you like to take those individually or en bloc? En bloc, okay. So, proposing that, and Tony is seconding. All in favour? Thank you very much. So that is unanimous. In that case, then that concludes the voting on this item, and that is the end of this meeting. Thank you everyone for attending, and we shall be back for more of the same after a break for lunch. Thank you everyone.